Salve a tutti, sono Almarok e benvenuti in un nuovo video. Oggi siamo qui per fare un'intervista a Øystein Brun, famoso per essere il chitarrista dei Borknagar e dei Molested. Prima di iniziare, ringrazio Øystein per la sua grande disponibilità, per aver accettato di essere nostro ospite, vi lascio l'intervista e vi auguro buona visione. Nice to meet you.
Hey, also.
Why you started to do music and why you started to do with metal music? Talk me about the start of your career.
Oh, it's a long story. Yeah, and I was always been into music since the very kind of, as far as I can remember. My father was old hippie, collecting and listening to a lot of music back in the 70s and 60s and stuff. So I grew up with music, basically, listening to music with a big record collection and all that. So I kind of grew up in that, the whole thing of enjoying listening to music. My parents was never into, the side of making music or playing instruments or anything like that. But the whole thing of enjoying music was a big thing in my family when I was a kid. I guess it got it from there, I guess. And he was listening to 70s was Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and Uriah Heep and all that stuff, and of course Pink Floyd and such. So I guess the whole thing about rock, metal, guitars, and the whole thing came natural, I guess. And yeah, I guess I found my own route in a way.
Talk me about your story with Molested, your first band.
Well, yeah, we all have to start someplace. And I remember back in the day when I was really young, like I guess 14, 15 years old, I really wanted to make music and this kind of music, you have to be a band, you have to have drums, bass and everything. So I think it was a secondary school, like I guess 13 years old or 14 or something. I got the contact, with other people that was into, hard rock and metal and such. And that was school that was kind of unifying a lot of, kids from all around the area and stuff like that. So I got some new friends and, we connected on the whole, I don't remember, but it might be, Twisted Sister kind of stuff in the mid 80s, something like that, Stay Hungry and things like that. Scorpions and Accept and stuff, and yeah, we was really into metal, and I wanted to start making music. So me and especially one of my still good friends, Alan Eriksson, which is like we I think actually looking back on it, I think our parents actually did a kind of a trick in behind the curtain, to be quite honest, because one Christmas I got the guitar and my buddy Alan got drums. So I guess that was kind of coordinated efforts, to for us kids to have something to do, basically. So yeah, he got drums and I got guitar, and I think we started, to jam and rehearse on the garage loft of my father's garage. Must be 88, 89, maybe, about that time, maybe 90, early 90s or something. And I remember we started out, we had no bass, no experience with music. I couldn't play guitar and he couldn't play drums at all. But we had a will, to do something about this. And I think it was the first years was rehearsing or playing around with our instruments every second day for a couple of years. And in the very early beginning, we had the name called Purgation or something like that. But that at some point, we wanted to follow up on this more, what can I say, grisly death metal from the US, like Incantation, Miasma from Switzerland, and this old school undergroundish death metal scene. That was pretty raw at that time. So we ended up being Molested, and the whole idea behind that band was to of course make some brutal music, nice, but it should be violent, it should be raw, it should be uncompromising, and yeah, in regards to the name, I think we we kind of did it. It was pretty brutal back then, but we was young kids, and it kind of part of my history, I guess.
About Borknagar, talk me about the beginning of Borknagar and in your opinion, how many things have changed in the sound of the band and in the thematics of the band album by album?
Oh yeah, it's a long story. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I guess it was 30 years since I started in '94 sometime. I think it was springtime or something, because that year I was like, that actually means that me and my best buddy at that time, Alan Eriksson, the drummer of Molested, we went on the last final year of school, secondary school, I think, and after that, we was like pretty much, he was going to the military service, I guess, and I was not doing that because I wanted to do some coursing, because I wanted to start on a school in Oslo for sound engineering. So point is that at '94, the whole band, the Molested thing, the whole formation kind of started to fall apart, because we was about to become adults, and we needed to do our educations. And the guitarist, I remember, was supposed to do some studies in Oslo and stuff. So that year, everything with Molested and the death metal project we had just kind of fall apart in a sense. And so I was already ahead of my time, and at that time had some plans about doing music, of course, but a little bit different flavor to it, different direction. I enjoy, and I still is a really huge death metal fan by heart. I really love the old death metal stuff, from the old days. I really do. However, at some point, for I guess 5-6 years, we rehearsed for every second day. I mean it, right? Really, like the what can I say? Yeah, we had a really strict regime back then. So I was kind of a little bit fed up with the brutal side of music, if just grinding along, just playing fast and all that. So I had this, and also because of my musical background, listening to Pink Floyd, atmospheric music, that has always catched me on a different level, the emotional side of. And since my very early childhood, I've always had this sensation of this. To me, music has always been very visual in a sense. Atmospheres and colors and shapes and all that stuff. So I really wanted to do something, since Molested was going down anyway, to do something fresh, do something different, and find my own musical path. Almost a little bit egoistic in a sense, but I just wanted to single pinpoint my own musical expression in a sense. And so I think even I started to fool around with the ideas about Borknagar already in late '93. But I remember I got the first logo in '94 or something like that, and started to play around with ideas, riffs, and lyrical ideas. And I think even the cover for the debut album was ready in '94 or something like that. So I started the whole planning of the band then, and in real life, it basically started. I remember I met Grim, or the late drummer we had on the first album. He was a good friend of mine at that time, and he played in Gorgoroth, I think, and in full Immortal, of course. And was just hanging out one evening. I remember one day or something, meeting on a local record store or something, and I just tossed over to him that I have some riffs going, I have some plans about the band and stuff like that. Yeah. Let's go. And actually on the fly, we just went down, because he had a rehearsal room with all these bands in the middle of the town in Bergen. So I think we just went off from there and just, started to jam together some riffs and have some ideas and stuff. And it just clicked in a way. We just kept going. And at some point, we had another good friend of ours that hanging around in the same, pubs and record stores and everything, Infernals from Gorgoroth. And we just invited him, come along and play some bass. And from there, everything kind of evolved, with also Ivor adding to the fold, the synth. And I think I remember Infernus called me one day, okay, by or something. And just, he had been over to Oslo and talked with a guy called Chris. He played in the Ulver, and he was really interested in, also to join in on this musical adventure. And I called him, I remember, and talked with him. And that was basically the start. Those guys really helped me out back in the day, and to get the sound and the musicianship, because I couldn't do everything myself. But I think musically and visionary, it was definitely my musical what can I say, goal in a sense, you know. Oh yeah, that's where it started from, and yeah, um, at that time, to be quite honest, it was more like, for me, it was very serious, but of course for the other guys, it was more like a project maybe, because you know, just one-off thing. But then I felt this nerve of the whole thing. I wanted to continue, do another album and make this my musical expression. And I think, you know, the other guys at that time wasn't really up for that, because they had, you know, own bands, Ivor and Slave, and so on and so forth, and for us also Gorgoroth. So the guys fall a little bit, you know, from the ship kind of thing, and then we had some lineup changes throughout the years, and to be quite honest, I don't remember all the details, all the, you know, ups and downs and all the lineup changes, but I've always, you know, kind of regarded this as a musical selection in a way, and it might sound a little bit hard, but it's like, you know, I've always been very stale on my musical vision. I've been very clear on my motives, you know. I've always been very kind of stubborn in a sense. So I've been doing my musical mission, my musical adventure, whatever you want to call it, and throughout the years, you know, we was young back then. All of a sudden, you know, we was involved in big company like Central Media, and that changed a lot, because, of course, with opportunities, there's also comes challenges. You know, you can't just sign on a big label and pretend that everything is going to be the same as before. You know, in a sense, you have to step up. You have to game things up a little bit, and I guess that changed with Old Domain and Archaic Horse, and you know, all of a sudden we was on a much bigger stage in a sense, when doing our music, and I wanted to continue. So I guess, you know, it was kind of a natural musical selection throughout the years. You know, finding the right persons and the motives and all that, and it's also a very long time span. You know, and as everybody have, you know, in the scene, the old guys, when we talk about this, having done this for 30 years, it's like almost my whole life, you know. It's there is ups and downs in this music business, you know. There is a lot of passion, there is a lot of egos, there's a lot of different goals in this, you know. Some people get involved in the scene or in a band because of, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Let's be honest. Some people, you know, prefer that for, you know, and other people, you know, it's into it because of the traveling. You know, some other people is, you know, the fame, and you know, not so much a fortune, but you know, the whole thing. You know, people have different motives, and that's of course okay. But I've always been very kind of crystal clear in my setting that, you know, you have to be invested in the music, otherwise just fuck off. You know, I don't want to, you know, spend time having people in the band that isn't involved in the music or engaged in the music. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, if you're the world's best guitarist. I don't care if you don't, you know, invest in the music and really have passion for what you're doing. That is my ground rule number one in this band. So yes, there has been some tough decisions throughout the years, and there has been some friendship being, you know, fucked up throughout the years. But I guess, you know, that is in the quest for the perfect music or perfect riff. It's you know, that's some of the sacrifice. And talking about sacrifice throughout all these years, I think that, you know, people have to understand that if you're going to do this for such a long time, you really have to sacrifice something. You cannot expect to live a normal life in a sense, you know. If you want to do music on this level, you know, you have to sacrifice, whether that being, you know, sitting in a pub with the boys, watching on soccer one evening, you know. It's a lot of social things that I just don't have the time for it. And to me, it doesn't matter, because I'm not really a social guy at all. So I don't care, you know. I'm willing to sacrifice all that. But you know, it's and I think throughout the years I've seen a lot of people that's really kind of into the whole idea about being in a band, you know, playing on a stage, doing touring, festivals, and all that. But after some years, they are kind of worn out because it takes some heavy toll. It really takes some heavy toll on your life in a sense, and you have to have some discipline. So it's a complicated affair, and yeah, here we are.
You talked before about your first drummer, Green. What about your memories about it, and what do you think about his tragical death?
Oh man, it's a long time ago. I mean, he was a really good friend of mine back then, I have to say, and we had some really good moments musically and also just on a personal level. We was hanging around a lot, I remember, and just me and him in the very beginning, just me and him rehearsing and going out for beer afterwards and all that. So I have a lot of fond memories. But it's what can I say? It's his death was tragic, definitely. I mean, I was, it's life is tough sometimes, but at the moment he died, we wasn't anymore the best of friends, to be quite honest, because of different reasons. I don't, it all became at some point quite complicated because we was young back then. It was a lot of envy. There was a lot of things going on in the scene in the background. There was a lot of different interests. And the fact that all of a sudden Borknagar, at some point, I think when we released the old domain back in, what was it, 97 or so, we was by far the best-selling album in Bergen, no, band in Bergen. Like double or tripled the rest of the bands, including Immortal and Slaved and all that. And because of that, there wasn't everybody that wished us or me well. And there was a lot of intrigues going on and stuff like that. So unfortunately, me and Eric didn't, what can I say, split on the best terms. But that wasn't his fault. That wasn't my fault, really. But that's a story. But of course, his death was tragic. Of course, it's sad. Yeah, the whole thing was really really sad. To be honest, it was a good guy. He was a good guy.
About the lyrics of Borknagar album.
Mm.
Um, what are the best thematics of the Borknagar lyrics, and how is important to change thematics album after album for you and for your band?
Yeah, I've always had this idea. I mean, since day one, that I've always had this. I've always really highly regarded those bands that has the ability to what can I say, make fantastic music and make their own musical world without all the glitter and whistles and all the shit, like Kiss, for example. No secret, I'm not a big Kiss fan. I think, musically they are mediocre at the best, and the whole, side of this corpse paint thing, to me, it's like, come on. It's too theatrical in a sense. I've always had this appreciation for honest music, for real people. Back in the day, I love Metallica. Just, one thing was the music, but I also, the way, just four guys with clothes and t-shirts and black, jeans. That's it, nothing more. It's the music that talks, in a sense, and that has been, very important to me to have the same. That's why I always use my own name. I've never used corpse paint and stuff. I had this idea since the very start. I wanted to be true towards my own music. This is not a gimmick. This is not a show. This is my life. This is real. This is real shit you're getting, um, and so that's why I've always, since the very beginning, thematically through each and every album, it's a capture of my life at that moment. When I did a debut album, that I was 19 years old or 18 or something like that. That was my lyrical context, my life context at that time. Of course, at that time, I was kind of into the more kind of folklorish, Viking mythology, all that kind of stuff, writing in Norwegian. I was even back then writing in my own dialect, which is like a little bit different from Oslo and stuff like that, because I live in outskirts of the country, on the countryside. So I have a much more kind of broad or old school dialect, if that makes any sense. So at that time when doing the debut album, I did that. When we signed with Century Media and did Old Domain, I wanted to lift my, the scope a little bit. I wanted, reach out, and I actually came to a decision back then that, I didn't feel comfortable enough, doing lyrics on my own tongue, in a sense, my own language, because let's face it, Norwegian language, we are a small country. We are, at this point in time, we're probably like 5 million people in Norway. And it's quite, the language is beautiful in so many ways and can be very poetic, but it's quite limited, it's really limited. It's few words. It's I don't know. I kind of felt that the Norwegian language at that time was a little bit holding me back, in a sense. So that's why I decided to change to English from Old Domain, and have kind of been sticking to that since, because it's a way more universal, it's broader, it's more deeper language, in a sense. Some people will probably kill me now, but I don't care. It's let's face it, English is a much bigger language. So I kind of did it. And Old Domain, of course, again, the thematics was, in the same kind of tradition, in a sense, but of course done in English. And then on the archaic course, which kind of, I remember we wanted to be a little bit more, what can I say? Not just, this Viking thing and Northern mythology and folklore, but we wanted to bring a little bit of this philosophical side into it, so that things have a deeper meaning. And that has always been important, because I've always been a curious guy, and always been wondering about, the big things in this world, and, how is, and so philosophical ideas and those things has always been very important to me, but from different, angles each and every time, because it kind of follows my life. When I did, I don't know, when I did Quintessence, I was like 25 years old or something like that. It's a different person than when I was 19 years old. And, the latest album, Fall, we did now a couple of months ago. Or when was it? Something like that. I don't remember. Yeah. Anyway, now I'm closing to 50 years old, so I change as a person, and that has been important to me to kind of incorporate this. My main point is that, it's important for me to, to each and every album should be lyrically and musically, it should be a kind of a chapter of my life, of my progression, evolution as a person, in the name of honesty. I don't want to fake it. I don't want to do something I'm not, and stuff like that. I'm not an entertainer. I'm more kind of I'm more like doing musical craftsmanship, basically.
If you want to be remembered for an album in your career, which is and why?
Dude, it depends. I mean, maybe ask me again in 10 years or something. It's hard to say. At the moment, maybe True North. Maybe that's just to me, that's a perfect album. But in the same time, I think that, Fall will be in the same league as well in a couple of years, maybe. When it comes to my own music, I always needed to. I need some years to cut myself loose from it, if you get my point. To get some distance to the album, to be able to, look back, to listen back on what I've done in my past, and kind of more listen to it that way. At the moment, I can't do that with Fall. I still need to, get it out of my system, in a sense. I cut it loose, in a sense. But and then also it depends a little bit on which day you ask me. Sometimes, the debut album is, I think it's very proud of that album. I'm basically proud of everything, but at the moment, True North, maybe.
What about the Borknagar project in 2024?
We have a bunch of festivals coming, I guess, and we have a quite huge European tour that will be announced in couple of in this month, later this month, I guess, in a couple of weeks, I guess. We'll do kind of focus. We'll do a lot of live shows in Europe this year, and next year, 25, we're probably gonna do some touring in US and festivals, maybe South America and Latin America, maybe. There's been some talks about Japan and Australia and stuff, but it's too early to say. And yeah, I guess that's basically it. And of course, my guitar is behind me, and I always make music, so I'll probably start working on some. I've already started work, but I'm not really seriously, just kind of tasting it, just kind of sniffing it a little bit. But I'm kind of into the idea about starting to work on a new album and stuff as well. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff going on the next couple of years. However, I've done this for such a long time. I don't stress it anymore. I don't need to stress it. I have to feel comfortable and ready to do it in a sense. So it's when time allows, when things feels right, I will get going with that kind of stuff, new music.
Borknagar have remastered their first album. Can you talk about this and why you decided to remaster your album?
Well, it's a long story again. I'm really proud of that album because that started this whole musical adventure for me. I mean, I made a career under that album. I mean, made me has so many ways made my life, and people always comes back to this album. People reminds about it. People ask me about it. Maybe because of the mystique, maybe because of I don't know, but it's a brilliant album. I agree. I think it's a really cool album from that time, and there has been some official re-releases, which is more like copy and paste kind of re-releases, just the master tapes, and then with copying basically the cover and everything. And there has been some illegal versions of it as well that has been annoying as fuck. So I spent quite some years to deal out the juridical side of this album to make sure that I own all the rights. I've always done that, but some people claim that they had some rights to it and shit like that. But with some lawyers and stuff, a couple of years ago I cleaned all that out with a record company that I'll probably shut my mouth about that, but they tried to exploit the album and stuff, and it really annoyed me. But we got a stop to this, and I got my lawyer and all that stuff cleared out with the juridical side of stuff, and then I was pretty much decided, like 99%, that this album is going down in a shelf, and I'm never gonna see the light of the day again. I'm never gonna do another release of this album. It's enough. Enough is enough. And I told everybody, even social media, that no, I'm not really listening to this album. I'm gonna give it to my kids, and they can do whatever they want to do with it when I'm dead, but not before I'm dead. But then they was kind of teasing me a little bit and asking, yeah, we should do, a re-release, a proper release and stuff like that. And I was like, nah, I'm not, I don't want to do that. I've told you so, blah, blah. But then they kind of wanted me to do what can I say, the final and the ultimate re-release of the album, in the sense that, let's remaster it, like let's do a little bit of, not to change the sound or anything like that, to change the feeling of it, but just make it more, what can I say? My sound wise, I just had this vision to make it more, to drag the listener more into the music in a sense, to open up the sound a little bit, to invite the people more into the album in a sense. And then I also told the guys that okay, I want to spend some time on that and use my equipment as studio, and that costs money. I'm not working free. And then I also, had a lot of archive material, like old photos and old, demos and rehearsal tapes and whatnot. So I kind of, at some point, I decided, okay, since Media gave me the funds and the budget to do a proper job on this one. So we did. I spent all the money, by the way, but anyway, to buy equipment and to get this project going. But I really wanted if and that was my kind of if I'm gonna re-release it like officially one more time, it's gonna be the definitive, and it has to be worth the money from the buyer. I don't want to give out another copy just to earn some money. I want to release it to honor the album in a sense, and the fans buying it, of course. So that's why we kind of did this ultimate jubileum version of it, where kind of everything is, even the lyrics is included on this album, which I've kept secret for 25 years or so. So we kind of spilled all the beans at once on this release, and this is the definitive version, and there will be no more of this one unless there won't be any more of this one.
Thank you for your time, and good luck for your other projects.
Thank you, man. Same for you guys.
Bye.